cuffs snapped closed like a bear trap. Loud, final, sharp enough to make bystanders flinch. Officer Mark Dillard's voice cracked through the morning stillness. "You're resisting," but she wasn't. She hadn't moved, hadn't screamed, hadn't even raised her voice. And that made it worse, because quiet dignity is sometimes louder than rage. Elena Ross had just wanted coffee. She wasn't thinking about making a scene. She wasn't planning to make history. She just wanted 5 minutes of peace before heading to her next classified debriefing at the Department of Defense. But peace didn't come. Instead, she got 2 armed patrolmen and a pair of steel bracelets. Tight enough to leave bruises, Mark twisted her left arm harder than he needed to. He smirked as he pinned her to the hood. "Suspicious vehicle," he'd muttered, even though it was a registered Lexus, even though it was parked in a legal spot, even though she had done nothing but step out in a hoodie and joggers with no makeup and skin too dark for comfort. They hadn't even asked for ID. They just decided Elena Ross, age 39, Brigadier General, decorated in 2 wars, advisor to the Joint Chiefs. But to these 2, she was just a black woman in the wrong zip code with the wrong car and the wrong face. They never asked who she was, but she told them anyway. Not loudly, not like a warning, just a calm, unwavering truth as they yanked her wrist behind her back. "You have no idea who you're arresting." They rolled their eyes. "Sure, lady, and I'm the president." Then came the push against the hood, the fingers digging into her shoulder, the smirk from the second cop, Officer Craig Slater, who muttered to the crowd forming behind him. Another one thinking rules don't apply. The silence in the street grew heavy. People were recording now, phones angled, cameras blinking. No one stepped in, but someone whispered, "She's not resisting. Why are they arresting her?" Elena's back was straight, even in cuffs, even under pressure. She didn't flinch, didn't beg, didn't explain. She just said 5 words that no one around her understood yet. "Let me make one call." Officer Dillard scoffed. "You're not calling anybody." But she already had a plan, because Elena Ross hadn't survived military intelligence by improvising under pressure. She was pressure. She trained people how to think under fire. And today, these men had chosen the wrong battlefield. With her hands restrained, she turned her head just enough to lock eyes with a woman nearby, a bystander holding her phone. Elena's voice was sharp, precise. She didn't raise it. She didn't have to. "Dial this. Now." Then she recited a string of numbers, 12 digits, twice. Not random, not a bluff. A classified response code tied to a Pentagon emergency hotline meant to bypass all civilian lines. The woman hesitated, then pressed call. It rang once, twice. Then, Pentagon secure line. The officers froze. Elena's voice, still calm, cut through the air. "This is Brigadier General Ross. Badge numbers 64912 and 65004 have detained me unlawfully. Immediate authentication required." The line went silent. The bystander looked at her phone like it had just turned into a grenade. A second later, the dispatcher's voice came back, frantic. "General Ross, we're initiating lockdown protocol. Do not move. Backup inbound. Now." The officers started to sweat. Their radios, once silent, exploded with noise. "All units stand down. I repeat, stand down. Code Crimson. Location flagged. Immediate Pentagon escalation." Mark Dillard dropped his smug posture. "Wait. What the hell is going on?" Craig Slater took a step back, hand trembling on his belt. "Is this some kind of prank?" But then the voice of their precinct chief blasted through the comms. "Dillard, Slater, you just cuffed a Pentagon-level officer. God help you." And still, Elena didn't move. She waited, stoic, silent, knowing. A black SUV screeched to a halt 2 minutes later. 2 men in suits got out, no badges, just presence. The kind that makes trained cops shrink. They didn't speak to the crowd, didn't flash ID. They walked straight to Elena and said, "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She nodded once. "Uncuff her now." One barked at the cops. Officer Dillard fumbled, keys clinking. sweat pouring. The cuffs came off, and still Elena said, "Nothing, not to them, not yet." She took the phone from the bystander's hand and pressed it back to her ear. "I want a record audit," she said to the person on the line. "Every stop these two have made in the last 5 years, every complaint, every dash cam pulled. I want it all." Then she turned to the officers. "You targeted the wrong woman." No raised voice, no shouting, just absolute bone-deep certainty. Behind her, phones were still recording. The videos would be viral by sundown, but the real destruction, it wouldn't come from social media. It would come from the very system these officers thought they knew. By the time Elena left the scene, escorted by Pentagon security, the officers had already been suspended. Internal Affairs had arrived. Their supervisor refused to meet their eyes. But Elena wasn't finished. She walked through the doors of the Pentagon the next morning, not in cuffs, but in full dress uniform, stars shining on her shoulder, and as she passed the briefing room monitors, she saw the live footage playing. 2 officers suspended after unlawfully arresting Pentagon General. Justice Department opens civil rights inquiry. And still, Elena didn't smile, because she hadn't done it for revenge. She'd done it for every woman who stood silent when they were wronged. Every black citizen who got pulled over and didn't have a hotline to call. She did it because even generals get profiled, and because sometimes the most dangerous thing in America is a black woman who knows exactly how much power she holds and refuses to let you forget it. By nightfall, the video had circled the globe, a woman with cuff marks on her wrists, standing straight as steel, surrounded by men who no longer held power in the scene they started. Elena Ross didn't go home that night. She didn't scroll through hashtags or tweets. She didn't do interviews, didn't call the news. She filed reports, filed complaints, filed charges, all with the same calm, deadly precision she once used to lead teams through war zones. The world screamed on her behalf. She remained silent until she didn't. 2 days after the arrest, a closed-door meeting was held at the Department of Justice, not just Internal Affairs, Federal Civil Rights Division. A Pentagon liaison, 2 senators, her, lawyer and Elena Ross in uniform. No need to raise her voice, because power, when real, doesn't shout. It simply enters the room and stays standing when everyone else feels small. Senator Greenfield, an older man with thin glasses and a thick accent, was the first to speak. "General Ross," he began, "let me start by saying how deeply we regret." Elena raised one hand. Not high, just enough. "With all due respect, Senator, regret isn't protocol. It's public relations. I'm here for accountability." He stopped mid-sentence, swallowed. She turned to the DOJ rep. "How many complaints did Officers Dillard and Slater have on record before me?" The woman glanced at a folder, cleared her throat. 23 combined, 4 categorized as excessive force, 2 flagged for profiling. Elena leaned forward slightly. "And how many were punished?" Silence. Then, "None, ma'am." She nodded once, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just folded her hands. "Then don't thank me for going viral. Thank me for surviving." Back at the precinct, Dillard and Slater sat in separate rooms. Mirrored glass. No attorneys yet. Just realization finally dripping in like cold water through cracks in cement. They hadn't been suspended. They'd been baited, allowed to marinate in their own arrogance until the weight of what they did couldn't be spun. Officer Dillard stared, down at a printout, a still image of Elena on the hood of the car, jaw set, eyes forward, dignity untouched. Slater muttered, "She never even yelled," because she didn't have to. While the investigations rolled forward, Elena stayed behind the curtain, refused every media request, ignored every trending tag, turned down interviews even when CNN offered a primetime slot. Instead, she visited her mother's grave, a small patch of grass 2 counties away. No cameras there, just memories. She brought white lilies, set them down, sat cross-legged beside the headstone and whispered, "I didn't lose my temper, Mama. You'd be proud." Then silence. Not the heavy kind, the healing kind. Because long before Elena wore stars on her shoulder, long before she earned titles and credentials and war medals, she was a little girl watching her father get pulled out of a car for not signaling fast enough. She was a teen who watched her brother get told to stay quiet and stop looking so angry when he'd done nothing at all. She grew up in a world where silence was often survival, but it wasn't always submission. Sometimes it was strategy. 1 week after the arrest, the Justice Department released a statement. Formal charges filed. Body cam footage reviewed. Civil rights violations confirmed. But Elena hadn't waited on that to move forward. She had other plans. At a private Pentagon ceremony, she was offered 2 options. File quietly, let the system run its course, or take the podium and speak for herself. She chose both. It was a simple press room, no fanfare, no flags waving, just one mic, one podium, one woman, and a country listening. "Good morning," she began, voice steady. "I was cuffed for existing, not for resisting. I was profiled not because of my actions, but because of my presence." She paused, let the silence speak with her. "I did not speak to the news that day because I didn't need to prove my rank. My uniform wasn't on my body, it was in my blood. To those who asked if I'd do it differently, no. I will never apologize for staying calm while injustice screamed in my face." She looked straight into the lens. "I didn't go viral, the truth did." And then she left. No follow-ups, no tears, just facts. The video hit 8 million views in 48 hours. But the moment that mattered most wasn't online. It came the next week. A letter arrived, handwritten. "Dear General Ross, my name is Mariah. I'm 15. I saw your video. I want to join the military. I thought I wasn't allowed. I thought they wouldn't let someone like me lead. Now I know they will." Elena kept that letter in her jacket, close to her chest, closer to her heart, because that's why she didn't scream. That's why she didn't beg. She knew the storm was coming, and storms don't announce themselves with thunder. They arrive with pressure, then lightning, then clarity. A year later, Elena was promoted. 2 stars now, Major General. Her office was quiet, overlooking the Capitol. One framed photo on the desk, her in uniform, holding hands with a line of young black girls on a military base tour. Behind her, a plaque read, "Service is not what you wear, it's what you withstand." And somewhere, in a precinct 2 cities away, 2 former officers now work different jobs. No badge, no gun, no authority, just records and reminders, because Elena never called for their downfall. She didn't need to. She just told the truth, and the truth has its own gravity. In the end, Elena didn't become a symbol. She became a mirror. She showed America what power looks like when it walks softly but carries memory like a sword. She didn't raise her voice because her presence had already spoken loud enough. And somewhere out there, a 15-year-old girl is standing straighter, dreaming bigger, and learning how to turn her silence into strategy. Because one woman, standing with dignity while the world tried to cuff it,